Hello, and in today's video we are doing an FPL catch-up for the 2022 to 23 season. Yes, that's right, fantasy football content is back for a new season of FPL. That is right, if you didn't already watch, you can go back and see my FPL 2021 to 22 season. I did a whole playlist on it, reviewing my season and looking at the highs and lows, and that was a recent video, and obviously we did a small little kind of reel showing our first draft, but that was ages ago. My team's changed miles since then. So in this video, what we're going to do is a few things really. I am Roberto Hollis. You can follow me on Twitter at RobertoHollis9. That's FPL Yellow Army. And basically, I'm going to tell you 10 reasons why I'm going to win the whole entire game of Fantasy Premier League in 2022 to 23. 10 reasons. And I'm also going to show you my current draft, and also I'm going to show you my league. So you can join. The cup as well is going to be running this season. So get involved, and I will catch you up once I get the time and certain videos across the season, and you can see how the league is getting on. It's going to be really exciting. So do smash a like on the video, subscribe, do not miss any videos by hitting that notification bell, and let's get into FPL 2022 to 23. So to start off with then, let me give you my 10 reasons why I'm going to win FPL 22 to 23. I nearly won last season, but not quite. Now, I'm obviously joking. I was well off. I finished on an overall rank of 109,000 and I'm trying to remember the rest of the numbers now. Should we have a little look? Let's have a little look. Let's see if we can do this in a way that... No, it won't let me. I'm trying to remember what my rank was now. It was 109k, basically. So, yeah, obviously, that was quite far off from number one. But it was still my best ever rank, and I keep improving each season. So that's really good to see. I'll tell you about my rank history in a second. But what I was going to say was my 10 reasons for why I'm going to win FPL. Okay? Number one. And that is that I've had enough seasons now to really get a grips as the best strategies and the best kind of way to play FPL. And the reason I say that is because I've read enough content, I've listened to enough podcasts, and now it's all really clicking into gear in my head. It's starting to make it much more clear in my head now of why I sometimes don't do well in FPL and why I sometimes do. And I go back to that 20 to 21 season, which was actually the first year I started broadcasting my FPL to you on my YouTube. That was obviously on my old YouTube account, Roberto Hollis. And that was the season where everything went right for me. And I had my best ever rank that season. Obviously, since then, we've eclipsed it. But it was just the way I was making my transfers, choosing my decisions. So the first reason why I'm going to win FPL this year is I'm going to go with my gut. Too many seasons, and I go back to last season, I have gone with the crowd. And the reason is I've looked at effective ownership and I've just let that play too much of a role in my head. The season in 20 to 21, I enjoyed it so much more because I made transfers based on the eye test. Now, granted, and we'll get to this in rule number 2, the eye test is not everything, but FPL is so much more fun when you are going with your gut and you're making picks based on what you believe will get the most FPL points. And that was what went so well for me last 20 to 21. Like, that's why I enjoyed that season so much, because I went from in 1920 a rank of about 1 million to a rank of about 267k because of the fact that I was watching games and letting that kind of eye test dictate things. And when you're enjoying playing Fantasy Premier League, which is not that often, I admit, it's a game that puts us all through the ringer. But when you're enjoying the way you just make your decisions, then it doesn't let it affect the football, and therefore you start to enjoy the game more. And because you're enjoying it more, you make decisions more flexibly. So there's more flexibility to your decisions. So therefore, you go into kind of game weeks thinking, right, these are my kind of options. Therefore, let's go with the process I had in my head and just trust that process. And then therefore, you trust it, and then it's more sustainable over a longer period of time, and therefore you can have a better season. So I think, honestly, I'm going to go back to that. I'm going to go with my gut, and that is my first tip I say tip, I'm not going to tell you how to win FPL, because there's a lot more unspoken rules, which is the way I'm going to win FPL this year. But ultimately, yeah, that is my first reason why I'm going to win FPL, because I'm going to go with my gut. And it's very easy for other people to say they're going to do the same. They're going to go with their gut, but so many times they get swayed. Be that by effective ownership, be that by, FPL Twitter, which is a hive mind. It is a massive, massive influence on people's decisions. And you can say, oh, I won't go with the template, but come on. You're not going to go into a game week with a team without, any premiums, any Man City players, any Liverpool players, because then you would actually have lost the plot. So there's going with your gut, but then there's also knowing the risks that you're taking. And we're going to move on to tip number 2, and that was about the eye test. Eye test is not everything. And what I mean by that is it's not everything, because you can go into a game week, have your eye on a certain player, and because of the match you've watched them, that kind of becomes your overriding factor. It shouldn't. And stats are important as well. So I said about going with gut, but I'm going to kind of contrast that with, it should be, for me, 60% going with gut, 40% looking at stats. Because if you go 100% going with your gut, you're just going to basically make yourself completely oblivious to what's happening around the games. And yeah, watching games is useful, but there's more to it than that. Is this player getting chances in the box? What are the quality of those chances? Are they actually creating the chances, or are they, wasting them, basically? What kind of involvement is that player having in the chances? All these things you're going to get from stats that sometimes you wouldn't get when you were just watching the game, because you see, small highlight reels and you can only see half of what the player is actually doing. So therefore, eye test is not everything, and therefore part of it is stats. So where do I get my stats from? Well, FP Ref is a really good website to use. You've also got FPL Analytics. You've also got I'm trying to think which the other one was now. I think there's FPL Review as well, which I don't actually use that often, but that's usually quite good to kind of review your decisions and look at stats as well. But the other one I look for in terms of stats, alongside FP Ref, I think another really good website to use is where is it? Understat. That's the one. Understat is really helpful to kind of give you all of those important information that you just think, I wouldn't necessarily think about that. But stuff like XG, stuff like goals per game, all of that lovely stuff you can find on Understat. So go check those out, and remember, eye test is not everything. All right, here's the third reason, and I give these as reasons because I've already considered these kind of tips as why or the way I'm going to play FPL, so therefore that's a reason I'm going to win FPL. My third reason I'm going to win FPL is that Watford aren't in the Premier League. Now, you're going to say, how does that make you win FPL? Well, partly because I'm not as biased towards Watford, so I'm not going to have as many Watford players in my team, dragging my team down. And you might think that's just being pessimistic over Watford, but come on, have you seen us recently? No, but ultimately, the other reason is that season in 20 to 21, the season I enjoyed it the most, lo and behold, Watford weren't in the division. So it just shows sometimes when you haven't got that to focus on, you can be more focused. Now, that's not obviously the same if you support a Big Six team, because the chance of them getting relegated is very, very little. So I think often that can keep FPL managers' eyes off the ball. I agree, you can win FPL with team bias. We've seen it before with Ben Crabtree, obviously having no Liverpool players, but he wasn't still captaining an Everton player every week, was he? So you could still win FPL without Liverpool players, but will you win FPL better if you support a bottom 3 team in the Prem and they're not in that league? You might do better because you haven't got that thing of, I want to, I don't want to captain Salah against Watford. Like that was a thing I did a couple of times last season, because we are the worst defence at that point, and Salah at that point is one of the best players in the game. So you just have to play FPL with a little bit of, removed bias. Think of this as a kind of as a test. It's not real life. It's a test of players' abilities, and you've got to think of this as like a program. It's a project. It's not real life. These little kits that you see pop up on your screen are not going to be crying, all day if you don't pick them. You're just going to be ruthless and say you're not as efficient. You're not getting the points and the minutes that I'm expecting. So that's the other thing I'm going to say is don't always be swayed by your club. And lo and behold, Watford aren't in the division, so that won't be a problem for me. Let's move on then, and let's talk about the fourth reason I'm going to win FPL. The fourth reason I'm going to win FPL is because I actually know now about chip strategy. Now, I can't lie, the first season of FPL I played, which was in 18-19, I was such a unaware about chip strategy that it was actually crazy. So over the years, I have so much more kind of understanding and grasp for it now. And chips, as we've seen in many seasons, have been like this massive, massive factor as to why people win the game. Why people win Fantasy Premier League. Because you only have to look at last season with Jamie Piggott, Football is Life. He was ranked at around 1k in game week 31. And then over the course of about 5 game weeks, from game week 33 to 38, he rapidly rose up those rankings. And because he maximised his chip strategy. Now, I can't lie, his game week 33 free hit was a bit of a nightmare. But then he recovered from that. And then he looked at the upside that he could have got from holding his chips till later on in the season when there were all those rearranged doubles. And he thought, yeah, let's not be hasty. Let's not waste them early on. Let's actually utilise them. So what did he do? He used it in game week 36, double game week bench boost. And then again in 37, a double game week free hit. And it's those kind of punty players in a chip that get sometimes the points, like a Maddison in game week 37, or a Matip or a Diaz, in a double game week. That is a kind of moment for you where you're chasing a big kind of rank goal. Obviously for him it was number 1, so it's different. But you're chasing a rank goal. You utilise chips at the right time, but you also don't just have a template team, because that's not going to win you FPL. So I agree, the template there is there for a reason. So yeah, the tip number 4 is, I think I know the best way to use chips, and that is little and long range. That sounds really weird, but that is the way I'll describe it. Little and long range. When I say little, I mean you shouldn't completely chuck away your previous team when you use a chip. Now, obviously that's different for free hit. We can accept that. That's a 1 game week thing. But for a wild card, when you do a wild card, you shouldn't overthink it. Because I see so many people completely chopping and changing every single part of their team. And I'm not just talking about, the same club, but I'm talking about the different, price structures, all those things. Now, I gather that early on in the season, you're going to just wildcard out of the same price, into a different price structure. But let's say you wildcard in the second wildcard by, say, game week 33. You're going to look at what you did in your previous wildcard, and then in the wildcard, obviously, in between, you haven't got a wildcard, so in the gap between. So therefore, you're going to use that gap to work out what is the best formation, what are the best price points, and you're going to stick with that. So therefore, you're going to learn from what you did previously. You're not going to be completely drastic in your second wildcard and do a completely new price point kind of strategy. So therefore, take what you've learned. Don't think that chips have to be different each time. Little, but long term. And I say long term because it's based off what you learn over the long term. Let's move on to rule number 5 and reason number 5 why I'm going to win FPL. And that is because of the fact that people know me now. And when people know you, you're more likely to win FPL. And I'll tell you why. First thing is, you get more contacts. So just for one, right? Twitter is blown up in the last couple of seasons. And I really appreciate all those people on Twitter. If you do follow me, I really do appreciate it, right? And I'll follow you back. But because of that, I've got a network. I've got people I can talk to. I've got people I can ask questions to. that is exactly what you need to win FPL. Now, granted, Jamie Pickett talked about this in his kind of not conference, but his chat with Always Cheating, Hail Cheaters, and they were saying about how did you reach out and did you have any contacts? This guy talked to one guy all season, and then a few at the end. That's all you need. But with Twitter, just imagine how many contacts could help you win FPL. So, at the end of the day, if people didn't know who I was, there's less chance of me being able to reach out and have a contact, and therefore I've got an easy resource to get the best players, get the best tips, and all that stuff. So, thank you, FPL Twitter. That's all I'm going to say. So that's number 5. Number 6, I'm going to say is a reason I'm going to win FPL is because now I have an understanding on who the best players are for the start of a season. And when I say that, what I mean by that is the players who I think are worth kind of gambling on. Because last season, the problem I had for so much of it was I was going wrong on those 50-50s. And now I feel like those 50-50s aren't as ambiguous. Now, look, you can see every season, let's say a Nottingham Forest comes in with some great fixtures for the first few game weeks, and you're like, oh, should I go Brennan Johnson or should I go Awaniwi for the same price at 6 million? That's fine. But I've learnt now from last season and from the season previous that sometimes those 50-50s aren't as clear or as ambiguous as you think they are. Let's think about a Smith Rowe and a Saka. Now that we've seen a whole season of Saka ripping up for Arsenal, are we really that much of a 50-50 between him and Smith Rowe now? No. And not just that, you can know that you're more solid on those picks because of looking at the finer details, right? And I can't lie, last pre-season, I honestly did not pay enough attention. But I've seen this season that in pre-season, Smith Rowe's barely got a look in. That's the same thing for Phil Foden at Man City, so therefore Jack Grealish is looking at appetising at 7 million. So all these things that I hadn't really thought about previously are now in my kind of thinking process. That just shows the influence of absorbing FPL content and kind of knowing what you should do to prepare for a season. And I appreciate all those content creators for giving me that. But now that that's in there, locked in, that's exactly what I need. So I therefore know who the best players are from the best teams. So thank you for that. Let's move on to tip number 7, or reason number 7 as to why I'm going to win FPL. The other reason is because I'm a Watford fan. And you might say, oh, that's not a reason you're going to win FPL. But I'm telling you, it's not happened before. No Watford fan has ever won FPL. And honestly, we deserve a break because last season was abysmal. And it just makes sense because at the end of the day, like, if Spurs fans can win it, then Watford fans can. We've actually probably won a trophy more recently than Spurs. I say that, it might not be true. But what I mean is, we at least won the trophy in the playoff final. So if a Watford fan can't win silverware, as soon as a Spurs fan can, then something is going to happen. Something's going wrong here. So now it's more of a jokey one, this one, I can't lie. But I just think it'd be good to represent the Hornets, the Hertfordshire Hornets, and at the end of the day, like, the Championship is interesting, but it doesn't necessarily influence FPL as much as, if I was just all absorbed in FPL. So therefore, the fact I'm a Watford fan, in my opinion, is going to help me win FPL. Let's move on to number 8. These are starting to merge into one, but I'm nearly there, people, so just bear with me. Number 8, as to another reason I'm going to win FPL, is because this season I'm actually going to be at university, right? So you're going to say, well, why does that make a difference? Because I'm going to be doing sports journalism. And to be a good FPL manager, you have to be journalistically trained. You have to be journalistically, savvy and see the stats and see the trends. And at the end of the day, when stats come into it, that is exactly why I'm interested in sports journalism. So I will be looking at stats, not just pre-planning FPL, but also in my course. So therefore, we've got stats galore here, and that's only going to help my FPL. So that's another reason I'm going to win FPL. We move on to number 9 now, And number 9 is a very, very kind of obvious one. But another reason why I'm going to win FPL this year is because I'm not going to be anymore looking to watch football based on FPL, right? And I know what you're going to say, huh? But you just said just a few rules ago that you're going to watch games and use the eye test. I hear you. But what I'm also saying is watch games and then watch them after, right? The reason I say that is it's very easy for you to start to tilt as an FPL manager when you are watching games for FPL only and not for the entertainment of football. But when you then do a thing where you watch a game live, because it's only live once, just a little, brand there for Sky Sports, you're welcome. But yeah, it's only live once, and you got to soak it up because it's enjoyable. But then the thing I said about the eye test and seeing whether players are doing what you want them to do based on a visual kind of perspective, that's not what you see when you're watching it live. When you're watching it live, you're way too caught up to actually kind of care, in my opinion. Or you're way too, excitable and interested to even take notice of the finer details. And those finer details are going to be what you're going to look at the eye test. You're going to watch an extended highlights. Like, obviously, when you're watching a game live, you're going to watch the whole game, right? But you're going to watch it with, a few friends, or you're going to watch it having a drink or whatever. Something's going to distract you. Whereas if you watch it again afterwards, then there's no distractions. And you can see it from a different perspective when you're watching it for an FPL reason and you're watching it just to enjoy it as football. So I think you should split it into two things. And therefore, that's another reason as to why I'm going to win FPL, because I'm actually going to enjoy football for what it is. And therefore, that won't influence my mental health based on FPL. And then I'll have more kind of brain power to win the game. And that's moving on to 10 now. This is our final reason why this year is the year we win Fantasy Premier League 22 to 23. That's right, you heard it here first, people. FPL Yellow Army, Roberto Hollis, team name, hanging by a thread. And that is another reason. No, I'm joking. That's not the reason I'm going to win FPL. But my last reason I'm going to win FPL this year is because of the pricing, right? The pricing this year is so generous, and I thank you, FPL Towers, so much. But previous seasons, I don't think it's been like this. I genuinely do not. Even Erling Haaland, who, in my opinion, is in the top 3 strikers in the world, comes in at cheaper than, I don't know, Son Heung-min and Kevin De Bruyne. And granted, all these players are more proven in the Premier League, but what's Haaland not done? What has Haaland not done apart from the Premier League? He's bossed Bundesliga. He's bossed the Champions League. He is a proven goal scorer. Granted, he has now been put in a team that loves to rotate, so that will obviously affect him. But from an individual perspective, Haaland can't do much more right. He is like a robot. He is genuinely a lab experiment at this point. He's that good. And yet he is being priced cheaper than Kevin De Bruyne, who, to be fair to him, is different gravy, but he's not as attacking as Haaland. So this is what I mean. That's just one example, but that's not really what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is Rhys James at 6 million and Trent Alexander-Arnold below 8 million. These kind of things you don't get every season. Even people like Rashford at 6.5. Granted, United were awful last season, but come on. What other year have you seen an England international who plays for one of the most popular football clubs in the world be priced at 6.5? Not many seasons. So it just shows that the pricing this year is so generous that you can squeeze in loads of premium defenders, you can squeeze in your premium strikers, and that is all you need to win FPL. So I'm going to actually say this is not a reason that I've actually created for myself, but that's Fantasy Premier League is given to me. So when I win FPL and I get that email from FPL saying, well done for winning FPL, then I'll actually reply to them and say, it's on you guys. Thank you for helping me out with the pricing. So yeah, that is it. The 10 reasons why I'm going to win FPL 22 to 23. Hope you have enjoyed. I'm just going to quickly round off by saying the league code. So before I show my league, these are all the juicy leagues I'm going to be in this season. I'm not going to join any more because I haven't got room, basically. I haven't got room to join any more. If I try and just put in a random league code, I don't think I can even join any more leagues. So therefore, that's that. But shout out to Fantasy 606. It's the first season I'm going to be playing in that league. I got hooked, basically, at the end of last season. Barely even for most of the season listening to them. But once I started, I couldn't stop. They are absolutely brilliant, so funny. And they've also now invited me, funnily enough, into the head-to-head Fantasy 606 league. Where is it? There it is. For the qualifier. So if I can get into this and finish in the top 2 or win the Fantasy 606 Cup, then I will get into the Fantasy 606 head-to-head league. And that's where you can start getting into some divisions. So that would be amazing. But, you know, Alistair Bruce Ball, Chris Sutton, Statman Dave, they do a brilliant job. So just shout out to them. But these are the leagues I'll be in this season. They are some banging leagues. But let's see the most important one, shall we? The most important one, and that is FPL Yellow Army's Loyal Legion. That's right, a new league for this season. I thought about refreshing last season's league, but I was like, nah, let's just freshen it up. So we've got plenty of recruits this season. I really appreciate it. Keep spreading the word, though, because the deadline is the 5th of August. That's when you can join the league by. And, yeah, we're going to be doing the Cup, so that will come later on in the season. But these are the current entries. Thank you so much to all these people who have already joined. Really do appreciate it. Top quality people. And, yeah, let me show you now the team that will win FPL in Game Week 1. Obviously, people say how you can win FPL in 38 game weeks, but you can't win it in one game week because it's too much of a long haul. But then also people say you can lose FPL in the first game week. So I think this is a definite dub for us. Let's talk about it. There he is, the little legend, David Raya, in between the sticks. Now, look, people can say all they like. Oh, you need a premium goalie. Nah, mate, nah. It's just not worth it. When you can have Rhys James in there, you don't want Raya. You don't want Mendy. You don't want anyone but Raya because it's just not worth it. And look at Raya, right? These fixtures are actually different gravy. Oh my days. Till game week 8, it is beautiful. And even Arsenal at home, that's not even a bad fixture. I mean, this lad is a legend. He kept the clean sheet in that fixture last season. You just can't complain. They are some great fixtures. And I looked at the fixtures for Sanchez at a similar price. He's higher owned. So Raya's a differential compared to him. Nice. And also, Manchester United at home, Leicester away, and look at these fixtures. Whereas, okay, yeah, granted Arsenal at home, but look, Arsenal aren't even that good. Whereas you look at the fixtures for Sanchez, you've got Man United away, which is tougher. You've got West Ham away, which in my opinion is tougher than Leicester away. And then game week 3, you've got... Oh yeah, that was West Ham. Sorry, game week 2, you've got Newcastle at home. Granted, that's quite a good fixture, but in my opinion, it's not better than Fulham away. So the first 3, Leicester away is better than West Ham away. Fulham away is better than... I'm trying to think of the other one. Newcastle at home. And Manchester United at home is better than Manchester United away. So the first 3 game weeks, he already wins. And then look at the run after that. It's ridiculous. So I know that he scored less points, but that was mainly because he played less games because he had that injury. But you only have to look at save points and BPS to show that David Raya gets save points. Now, I know what you're going to say. Oh, they brought in Strachoka from Lazio. Yeah, I know. But there is assurance that he is going to be only the backup and David Raya is your man. He actually did so well for me at the latter end of last season, and I feel like giving him a reward. Brentford are a solid defence. I don't get the kind of thing that people say that they're going to have second season syndrome. That was only for a few teams. This Brentford side is built different, and Raya is making saves. And ultimately, you get more value out of Raya when he gets the same round of points of, I don't know, a Sanchez, right? Look at Sanchez last season. 4.5 million, 126 points. And people were saying to me, no, you got to get Mendy, mate, 5 mil. It's an offer you can't refuse at that price. Okay, sure, but how many points did Mendy get last season? Just 4 more than Sanchez. And Raya obviously didn't play because he was injured. So just think how much of a difference it makes saving 0.5 that could be valuable for the rest of your team, and yet it's only a few points out. So Raya is the man to go for sure. In my back four, though, we have got a saucy quadruple of big at the back. Oh, yeah. Joao Cancelo. You just can't have him any time. No, I'm joking. You just can't not have him. And I say that because I know that. Last season, I didn't have him enough. I barely owned him all season. I think I had him in my free hit in game week 34, but ultimately not owned enough. This guy, maybe a bit of Portuguese bias is coming in, but this guy is just unbelievable. And look at the fixtures that he has to start the season. I mean, come on. You're telling me you're not going to be hiding behind the sofa if you don't own this guy. His creativity is second to none. Now, of course, if City sign a fullback, maybe, just maybe, he'll get less game time. But come on, mate. This is Joao Cancelo. His creativity, his ability is undisputed. Sure, Kyle Walker might get rotated a bit more, but Joao Cancelo is much higher on the pecking order. And Trent Alexander-Arnold is essential. It's as simple as that. You can talk all you like. He is essential. There's much more than to say than he's essential. Okay? He is just brilliant. Free kicks, 208 points last season. 7.5 is a joke. Should be 8 million. I just can't go without him. It's as simple as that. Rhys James. Now, granted, Chelsea haven't looked great in pre-season, and that was demonstrated by their 4-0 defeat to Arsenal. And granted, they are trying to bring in another centre-back, which could put Rhys James as right centre-back. But I don't think that's going to happen, because James, he did get played in that position a few times last season, but then Tuchel saw how bad it made him as a player, right? You're not going to want one of your best wing-backs to be playing in a worse position. And ultimately, Alonso's still at the club. Emerson's still at the club. I think Chilwell, after coming back from that injury, is not as good of an option. And come on, both of those defenders. I thought Rhys James was going to be 6.5 and Chilwell was going to be 6. But the fact James is the same price is crazy. That value for a attacking fullback that on his day, I'm not saying all the time, but on his day could be as attacking as Robertson and Trent and Cancelo. Oh, come on, mate. Let's have all of them. That is a premium back four. Robertson, I can't believe people didn't have Robertson last season. I mean, I'm one of them, so I say I can't believe you. But still, this guy is different gravy. Every season he delivers. And if you had to give me a choice between Robertson and Diaz, I'm picking Robertson every day of the week. Midfield, look at this. Double City, we need it because game week 2, Bournemouth home. Nice. But Grealish actually got a very good record away to West Ham. Scored there last season and also scored there with Aston Villa on the final day of the 1920 season. Now, Martinelli, I know you're going to look at that and say, why Martinelli, man? He's just not nailed. But have you seen Smith Rowe in the pre-season? No. Barely played, mate. Barely played. And Martinelli, I'm sorry, if he's not playing, Arsenal are doing something wrong. He is actually different gravy. And for 6 million, he's a nice price point where, look, if he does get benched, I've got bench players to come on. But also, I can switch to other good value players around that price, like a Bruno Guimaraes, like, I don't know, a Jesse Lingard when he starts doing things for Nottingham Forest. So, honestly, it's not a thing I hate. I think Martinelli is lovely. Of course, his rotation could hurt us, but to start the season, I think he's a lock. Salah, captain. Of course, Fulham away, game week 1, king. Always scored in game week 1 in his career in the Premier League with Liverpool. So, you just can't refuse it, to be honest. Fulham, leaky. They conceded 5 to Benfica. And Fulham, come on. Like, that's just going to be a haul for Salah. Salah is essential. I'm saying it right now. There are 2 players, and only 2, that are essential in FPL. And that's Trent and Salah. Just go home if you think there's any more. But essential is a big word, I know. So I'm going to leave it to those 2. But honestly, Salah, you cannot go without him. You are mad if you do. Bailey. Now, I'm going to say this. I'm not too confident. But at the end of the day, for me to have that back 4 and to have Grealish and to have the front 2 I'm going to talk to you about, it's fully worth the hit. Bailey, my friend, you are my weak point, but I'm going to put all faith in you that you can show what you did in pre-season and replicate it. Because, look, at the end of the day, Villa's fixtures to start the season are very appetising. Bournemouth, leaky. Everton, leaky. A game he actually scored in last season. Palace away, okay, a bit tougher, but still scoreable. West Ham, it is a home game, so that's all I've got really to have kind of on my radar, which is good. And then it goes very, very gross. I can't lie. But the thing is, right, he's 5 million. Are you going to sweat if he doesn't do well? No. You're going to switch to another 5 million. To be honest, the 5 million options aren't even that bad, which is a really rare thing in FPL. Usually the 5 million midfield slot is dead. You get people like João Moutinho and, N'Golo Kante. But this season, you got people like Bailey. You got Elanga. If he gets game time, he could do well. You've got people like, let me think of some others. There are plenty. Let me have a little look, people, whilst we are talking about it. So, midfielders, 5 million. Let's be having you. Let me just find it. Okay. We're nearly there, people. Right, 5 million midfielders. Here we go. Bosh. So, yeah, at the same price, you've got... actually, I look at Wolves. They're not that many good options at Wolves. But let's say someone like a Tom Cairney, right? He could play a few games. He's decent. We can talk about a Dewsbury Hall, who's probably nailed and got a few attacking returns last season. You've got people like Willock or Almiron, who scored a few last kind of couple of days in pre-season. Joe Lolly, who's pretty good, I can't lie, for Forest, if he plays. He is pretty strong. And you've also got, who was the other one? I'm trying to think who it was now. Oh, Gineppo. Right, Gineppo, I get it. Like, last season he barely played. But, previous season, okay, 1 goal, 2 assists, 2 goals, 2 assists. Not brilliant. But, if he plays regularly, which is a big if, then good value at 5 mil, in my opinion. Let's move on to our front line. Now, that is sexy. I can't lie. The Arsenal and the Spurs double, the North London strikers. But, Jesus, come on, mate. You've got to be in my team. What a player. I mean, he's already started pre-season unbelievably. And that Arsenal team are going to create chances. Granted, not quite as good as KDB swinging it in for you. But, come on. He's built for that team now, Jesus. That the number 9 that they needed. And Arsenal's fixtures are so finger-licking good to start the season. So, it's got to be done. And next to him is Harry Kane. Simple as that. It's very tempting to go Haaland, but come on, mate. It's Harry Kane. Like, if Pep is talking about rotation risks where Haaland's not ready to adapt to the Premier League yet, whereas these two are, am I really going to take that risk when I've got Kane against Southampton? I mean, West Ham away is gettable, but it's not as juicy as Southampton. I'll probably switch to Haaland game week 2. I'm putting it out of that now because it's probably going to happen. And I'm probably going to want the triple city against Bournemouth. But what I'm saying is, to start a season, you want the tried and trusted. You want the solid picks. Now, I get Martinelli, Grealish, you might say they're rotation risks. And Bailey, a bit of a punt. Agreed. But you need some punts to start a season. You need some differentials. And look at Grealish for differential. Just look at that. 5.3% owned. That's probably going to go up before game week 1, granted. But if he's less than 10% owned, that's still a very solid differential, in my opinion. And look at Robertson. Come on, 10.2. That is very, very low. I get a lot of people flocking to Diaz to get that 8 million midfielder slot locked in. But only in a couple moves would I have to do that to move Grealish to an 8 mil midfielder. 8 mil midfielders are quite good, but they're not as amazing, I think, everyone's making out. So Harry Kane, yeah, solid. But at the end of the day, make it worth it because I can switch to Haaland. Ward. Now, the reason I have got Ward is because he's probably not going to be number 1. But if he is, it'll be absolute scenes because I could rotate him with Raya when the fixtures are better. Obviously, for Raya, he's number 1 right now. We don't know about Ward, but there aren't many good 4 mil goalkeepers, basically. So I've just gone with him because Schmeichel's left. They haven't got a replacement in yet. Probably will soon, but I'm just going to go with the flow, really, with that one. Nico Williams, best 4 million defender in the game. He's nailed, he's going to start, and the best thing about it is he's actually got some attacking threat. Now, ultimately, we don't know how well a Forest are going to do. We don't know if they're going to keep any clean sheets. I get that, but if you just look at their fixtures to start the season, he is certainly a benchable player. Play him against Everton, bench him the rest. Play him against Bournemouth, bench him Leicester. Play him against Villa, bench him Liverpool. you can just get this guy in and out of your team and he's just bench fodder. It's exactly what you want for a bench. You don't want to have any regrets, but you also want someone to come in for some appearance points. Now, I get Bailey's not ideal, but I could at some point switch Bailey to a Neto and then have Nico as the backup for Neto when Neto's not a good fixture. So there are options here, people. Andreas, best 4.5 midfielder in my opinion, alongside De Silva. Now, I know De Silva's very promising and probably got better fixtures, but think about Andreas. He could be on set pieces with corners in pre-season, and also with Andreas, the other thing you've got to think about is he's actually locked in for that Fulham side. Is De Silva definitely going to play every week? Now, we think he is because he's going to take that position that Eriksen was in last season. Obviously, he's now moved on to Manchester United, but ultimately, he's going to probably play more minutes than last season because at the start of last season, he was injured. That was the reason. So I honestly think De Silva's very tasty, but to start the season, I'm going Andreas. Then Plange, it's just a funny name. It's a funny name to call out, and he scored a hat-trick in pre-season. The 4.5 forwards are not that important. However, if you have Greenwood, I would suggest get rid, because he's the highest owned forward at that price, and therefore when he doesn't do that well, strangely enough, weird people transfer out their 4.5 forwards. So therefore, they'll lose value on Greenwood because he's so high owned and because people will actually be making their transfers with him. So therefore, that is my team. And it's not quite 100% locked in, but I think it's close to 100% locked in. Because, look, I could easily go James to Gabriel and Bailey to Neto and maybe use the money elsewhere to get like a 5 million goalie. But what I'm saying is, that is more solid. I need double City, and I don't think that's going to be through Ederson because you just think 4.5 goalie, just don't overcomplicate it. And I'd like to see Gabriel, because Arsenal, they might get a few clean sheets in this run, and Gabriel's so attacking, but to have Rhys James, it's more explosive, and it is at the cost of Neto, who I prefer to Bailey, and possibly Podence, who's now maybe going to play as a false nine with Jimenez out injured, but I honestly feel that's probably the best we can get it. So, pretty strong. 4-4-2, has the most balance in the game. That's your lot. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.